Welcome, everyone, to the Reality After Show. I'm Matt Bischoff from Survivor Caramoan, Alex Trias. Listen, last night was an exception because typically when Johnny's at a viewing party, Alex, I am here with you doing the pod. But last night, not only was Johnny in Clearwater, Florida with Mama C and Janet doing a Survivor 45 viewing party, I was in Dayton, Ohio, which is about an hour away from where I live, for Bryce and Wendell Presents their viewing parties they do. So I've never been to one of theirs. I've known Wendell and Bryce for a long time. So it was so great to see them. I love Bryce and Wendell. Eliza was there, so it was really cool to finally meet Eliza because we have so many mutual friends. I mean, with Johnny and Lex and different people that are really close with Eliza. And then even I played Survivor with Corinne on Fans versus Favorites. And as everyone knows, Eliza and Corinne were partners on The Amazing Race. So we got to talk about some of that stuff. It was really cool. And then reality TV guru Mertz was there. So I had seen him at like the Caramoan parties and stuff in LA when my season was airing. So I haven't seen Mertz in a long time. And he was one of the moderators for, they were doing a how gender plays a role in reality TV panel discussion. And so I was unable to make it to that, but I heard it went really well. There was also, I want to see if I can get these names right. A winner of Big Brother. Did you see my photos? Do you know who that girl is?
Yeah. It was last season's winner, Taylor Hale.
Yes, dude. She's beautiful, dude. Like, so cool and nice. But I was like, I said to her, I was like, nice to meet you. I was like, man, I have a super hot wife, but I just want to tell you that like your skin and stuff, like you are so pretty. Like, she's like, well, thank you. She just was stunning. And it says, yeah, she was a beauty queen. So it makes sense. And then another Survivor player, Becky Lee. I forget what season she was on, to be honest with you, but
was it Cook Islands?
It might have been. So it was a while ago, but yeah, it was great time. So it was at a bar in Dayton called Too Social, and there was a great turnout, and met a lot of new fans. And then a lot of old friends that I haven't seen in a long time. So it was cool. But I will say this, at these viewing parties, if you've never attended one, sometimes it can be super chaotic because you have the fans wanting to talk to you, ex-cast member, former cast members wanting to talk to you. And then in the case last night is the audio wasn't the best. So like when people are talking, you're trying to read like the closed captioning and stuff like that. So like for me, I usually go back and rewatch the show so I can really pay attention. I have not had a chance to do so. So the details are slightly foggy, Alex, from last night, but it was killer. And I highly, highly, highly recommend, if you're listening to this podcast and you've never been to a watch party with former survivors, whether it's Bryce and Wendell's deal or Rob C's deal, or if anyone else does a thing for Give Kids a World, and most importantly, the Reality After Show ones that Jonny Fairplay puts on. He's in Clearwater tonight for a House of Villains party, but please go. And Johnny's got all the tickets available at survivortix.com, survivortix.com, or villaintix.com, but it takes you to the same place. So
it's the same place.
Yeah. So it's easy to say one thing, survivortix.com, and you can buy tickets to all of the live show events that Johnny will be doing. And we're going to be doing one in Cincinnati, Ohio, November 29th and November 30th. So I told a lot of the people I met last night, hey, come to our deal. And so I hope people are going to come down, but super fun. Now, Alex, you watched the show last night.
I did.
So what was your take? I mean, we obviously had Sean quitting last week, which is terrible. And actually, it was funny. I went for a walk after work with my wife, and on the way home, she was watching a video on her phone, and I was like, "What is that?" And it was Joe Anglim on like some NBC news, like a CNN type, Fox News, I think it was,
Mm.
and he was talking about Survivor and how all these people are quitting now, and how like he would never quit, and how could this be a society thing of like this next generation doesn't know what hard shit really is or something, or why is there more quitters? So anyways, but I was like, wow, that's pretty crazy. He was on there like talking about the current season of Survivor. I was pretty shocked. I just heard it, a little brief thing, but I haven't really looked into it, but I didn't know if you've seen that or not. So the backlash of Sean.
No.
So
yes. So
yeah.
you have the backlash of Sean.
Yep.
And so we get back to camp, and they're all sort of like awkwardly sitting there because Sifu's sort of like he's setting the fire, but he's sort of like, you can see his fire's also starting to run a little high because he's just like, I wasn't expecting my name. Who put my name down? Everyone's denying it. Everyone said, all four of them say they all voted Sean. But so Julie says like, oh, well, it could have been Sean that put your name down, Sifu. And Sifu's like, nope. When he hugged me, he told me he didn't vote for me. And you get that confessional from Julie where she's just like, essentially like, well, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What the fuck, Sean? Like,
right.
We were gonna keep you. We liked you. We were so nice to you, and you throw us that grenade that now
that's
we have
lame.
to manage. But like for now, they're all denying it. They're all denying it. Sifu knows one of them's lying, but he doesn't know who's lying. So he's like, I need to get down to the bottom of this. That's the person I'm going to target.
Do you think he'll ever get to the bottom? Because if I'm out there and Sifu, I would probably do exactly what the girls were doing and say, I didn't put your name down. That's what Jonny Fairplay would have been. He'd be like, of course I didn't put your name down. Don't look at me. So I doubt Sifu doesn't seem like the kind of player that is, I don't want to act like I think Sifu's dumb, but he doesn't seem like a super smart, strategic game player that could really figure it out. I think he'll never really figure it out.
Our impression, the edit gives us the belief that we're supposed to look at Sifu as someone who he's doing all this stuff for like screen time. Like, I'm going to do all the karate stuff because that's what's going to get on air. You know, like we haven't seen the strategy side of him. And now his strategy is very like single-minded towards himself. Like it's not about everything else because he was originally just like, well, I'm Reba Strong. Like that's where I am. But now it's like, now Sifu has to protect Sifu. The other thing that's interesting that you wouldn't hear in a loud environment like a watch party is Julie mentions how, well, there's still this suspicion that Sifu has an idol. And if he does have an idol, he just plays it. If we go to tribal next, and one of us goes. And that's like got a lot of us thinking of like, but Julia and Dee know who has their tribe's idol. So we're like, everyone's sort of just like confused. Like, we thought they were just going to Jay Maya's bit of like Jay Maya believes that Sifu has it because she doesn't know who has it. But now it seems like it's a little more up in the air than what we were led to believe.
Yeah, right.
Which is interesting.
Yeah, it is. But it was interesting because last night at the watch party we were talking about just like the quitters and like how much that really sucks. And then I was telling Eliza and Mertz just how, you know, and some other people, how Brandon was like, if he's the biggest fan, then why couldn't he climb a ladder and you know, this, that, and they agreed, but they were also like, dude, like that guy is like really smart and really great socially. Like they've hung out with him at some parties and stuff. So they said he's a really great guy. You just didn't really get a chance to see his gameplay because I think it's so clouded by the fandom starstruckness. I feel
it's clouded by that, and also the edit isn't going to show like the good things of him because he's the second boot.
Yeah.
Like, how much do they really want us to invest into like, oh, what could have been of this guy?
Yeah.
If really his story is he's going to fall flat on his face and be out in 6 days.
Right.
4 days, whatever the time frame is. But so we move over to Bellow Tribe, and a big theme of this episode is about like the hunger, because like the one thing we do know about the new era is like they give you nothing. They give you nothing. You're still on these same Fiji beaches that they have used for like 700 years now. So I had to imagine like if there isn't as much food as there was back in season 33 when they first came back to Fiji.
Right.
But you don't get rice. You if you have fishing gear, maybe you're going fishing, but how successful are you? And so a big thing here on Bellow Tribe is Austin and Emily and all of them are like just talking about like how hungry they are. They're like 10 days in, they are barely eating anything. And like that part I do get. I'm still of the mind of like give each of these tribes a bag of rice. It can be a small bag of rice. Like from an entertainment standpoint, Matt, it's like I always feel like that's why they gave you food at the beginning, because it was like you want them to starve, but not starve to the point that they're like a food zombie. Where like how entertaining can they be as a character for your TV show if the only thing they're thinking about is not the game, but about the fact that they haven't eaten in 10 days.
Yeah, I mean, this is not Naked and Afraid, and it is a new era. And like, we don't even really see, I mean, over the past, how many years, we haven't really seen how bad the elements are and the bug bites and the rain and stuff. They've done more away with the survival aspect of Survivor and more about gameplay. So if that is their go-to thing, they should give them something, because like whether you like challenges or you don't like challenges, you're going to have better challenge performances, whether it's a physical lifting thing or even a cognitive puzzle building or memory challenge if you have some sustenance in your body. So I don't feel the need. I do not think that, like, if Australian Survivor gives their players more food or something than American Survivor, like, I don't feel like that would take away from the gameplay at all.
Right. Like, I get it in the sense of like, well, if we starve them, they'll be at the same point in 26 days the way that you would be in 39 if we did our normal, like what was normal.
Yeah.
But it drives Kendra to the point where like she's like, I'm gonna try a worm. I'm usually the person protecting all the worms. When it rains, like when it rains in Colorado, I'll go outside and I'll find all the worms on like the sidewalk. I'll put them back into the grass, but I'm hungry. And so she tries to down it like a pill, and she's like, nope. I lost. The worm won, me 0.
Yeah.
I am the worm right now.
Yeah, that was funny. She's like, I think like even after the fact, she was just like, completely like just grossed out by that. But yeah, hey, and all what I think Brando said 70% worm, 30%
protein, 30% shit. I'm kidding.
That's pretty funny.
You know what? I remember the first episode of the preseason, we were a little down on Kendra. We're like, oh, she's a little out there. Is she just going to pretend to be like the next Carolyn or whatever? But the more that she's been on our screens, the more I find her like endearing and like good energy, as like, because on this tribe, you have like 4 people that are literally like twigs just dying of like starvation. And then you have her just like literally just bouncing off the walls with all this energy that I wish I had that type of energy still in my own life. But this is like, this showcases like into Drew, and Drew's talking about how like Drew and Kendra aren't people that you would normally put together. They're 2 different worlds. But he likes her. He's like, she's everything I thought she would be. And I wasn't sure if I would be able to like mingle with that, but I do. I like her, which I think these little scenes that they have here in the beginning are like why ultimately at the end you see why they vote out Brando instead of Kendra. And we'll get there. But we now are going to switch over to Lulu. So on Lulu, this is where like mainly the big scene here is they're going to go to the fish traps to see, or crab traps to see if they caught any crabs. Jake gets himself up and he passes out again.
Yeah, very scary. Down. Very scary again.
But like it starts to put a little bit together for me where like he then talks about his this is where it like goes to his weight loss journey.
Yeah,
like a big portion of his weight loss journey was mainly for himself, but also he was like, I wouldn't be able to go on Survivor if I was who I was 2 years ago. Like, I worked my ass off to get in really great shape, really change my lifestyle around. And part of me thinks it's like when you go through that type of massive weight loss
Yeah.
journey, I also feel like if you go into this type of environment, you truly don't know how your body's going to react to
Mhm.
running on empty for days at a time.
Yeah,
And I think
right.
his body's sort of just like at the moment has these little spurts where it's just like just rejecting it. And
Yeah.
it's just like you aren't going any further. Like we need energy, we need calories, we need something. So you're just gonna black out for a
Which
moment.
sucks because I really don't want to see him get evicted or not
Yeah,
evicted,
I
evacuated.
don't. I'm optimistic that the first time it was sort of like that gotcha moment because it was like the smoke inhalation and they wanted to
Yes.
give all of us in the audience like, oh, this is perfect for you to get scared. Is he going to get pulled? This one seemed like it was supposed to translate into his story, which they've done a lot better job this season of like limiting the like the overcoming obstacles story across the board. Like
Yes.
they had two this episode, but they made sense. They fit into characters that I feel like we're supposed to invest in long term, in Jake and in D. But
Mhm.
I like Jake. The more he's around, the more I like him. I'm liking this cast overall. Like the people, I'm glad the people who quit because it
Yeah, me
allows
too.
the other people that we could invest in more time and allow us to get even more invested into them. So I'm really hoping to see this isn't a common occurrence for Jake. And this was just like meant to be a highlight to help us on his journey in this season.
Yeah, and I like this. Like I said, sometimes it would get old when every story is a sappy story, because I love when they throw like a sappy like this, overcoming the weight loss um, from Jake, and then if you had someone like the Golden God or some like motorcycle
Right.
rider, like, and they did a backstory where they're just like super cocky. Like sometimes we see in Australian Survivor these MMA fighters, and it's more of like a highlight reel of like the championships they've won. So we kind of do get the same kind of backstory thing, but I've been cool with what we've gotten so far this year. I mean, last year we saw Carson, who put on a lot of weight, was
Yeah.
to train for Survivor, so I love the fact that Jake did a lot of crazy measures to get ready for Survivor. That's why it pissed me off so much when Brandon couldn't do what he did, because people like Jake obviously put a lot of time and effort into this. So, and
Yeah.
Jonny Fairplay's met Jake at some or maybe he hasn't, maybe it's a wax figurine, but if you look on social media, yeah, Jake's been at a couple of Fairplay's parties. So, and Fairplay says he's really cool. So if Fairplay says he's cool, I imagine he's a pretty cool dude.
Right. So we come back from commercial, and this is mainly about Caleb, but it's starts off with Katura. Katura comes back from, I guess, checking crabs by herself, and no one's at the camp. Everyone went to the water well. So she starts idle hunting.
Mhm.
Doesn't know if there's actually an idol there, but she starts idle hunting, but she's a little sloppy with it, and everyone catches her. And Caleb sort of like pulls her aside, be like, "Hey, like everyone knows I was
Yeah.
trying to get ahead of it to try to protect you." And then that sort of leads into like some people are now seeing Katura as a potential liability because like if this is how she's going to play right now, if we keep going forward, that could
Like
mess
like
up
she's a
our
loose like
individual
she's a loose
games.
cannon kind of thing.
It's
Like if
like
she's
I wouldn't even know if it's a loose cannon, but they're like she's sloppy. She's
yeah, right.
sloppy with it. Like like you need to be a little more discreet. You need to be a little more cute about it. Um,
Which makes sense, dude, because if she
yeah,
was at tribal council and was sloppy, she could give away something, because Jeff Probst will ask these leading questions
yeah,
to where you could accidentally get yourself caught in a pickle where, you know what I mean? Like and you're
yeah.
just like, well, I never really thought of that, Jeff, but yeah, I'd vote out, so and so if I had to. So yeah, it would be a red flag to me. Man, you got to be a little more
Yeah,
stealth in your
it-
gameplay.
exactly. And then this leads to Caleb, and it's a great like segment of Caleb. It's about Caleb really highlighting his superpower, which is that those one-on-one connections he can create. And he's like, I feel he talks about how like the main word in the law of attraction is action. Like the last part of the law of attraction is actions, and you have to be proactive. And the only person he was like, I haven't been able to be proactive with is Kelly, but I can tell Kelly's the center of everything. So he pulls Kelly aside, because he has good relationships with everyone else. He's done a good job ingratiating himself across this tribe. Where if they had gone to a tribal, Caleb isn't getting his name put down.
Right.
It would have been infighting amongst the other original Bello tribe. But he pulls Kelly aside and lets her in on the secret of Sabaya's idol, and lets her know there was an idol here. Sabaya found it, but it's now gone. And he's like, I'm hoping this little bit of information that I haven't been telling other people helps pull Kelly to me, because I think we can be a great duo heading into the merge. Now, and that's a duo I would love to see.
Me too. The only thing I fear, though, dude, is Caleb being so good at this game that he's a huge threat and people just want him out. You know, is he playing too hard, sure, you think? Or like, what could Caleb do to be tone down?
I think the issue is he's in a position in this. The game has made him unable to be able to tone it down.
Yeah.
Like, because of being on the bottom, on a constantly losing tribe. Now he's in a position where he's the only person that was from a different tribe on his beach. It's like you sort of have to be on overdrive, understanding the risks that come with it. So, like, I am concerned there. But I'm also concerned for Kelly for what we see later on in this episode. But there are two people that are, at the moment, very high on my list in terms of who are the players of the season so far, who are the shakers and movers. And those it's those two for sure.
Yes.
But this gets us back to Reba, and they spend a full segment of the girls just dumping on Sean, and just like they didn't hide in the end. They're like Sean sucks. Why did he have to tell Sifu this? Like, we had a plan. Like, now we have to like figure out how to get out of this plan. And this leads to Dee, because Dee is in her confessional talking about how like she's frustrated, not because he left, but because he quit. And this goes into her story about her family. She's a first generation Cuban American. Her parents escaped Cuba to come to the States. Like, and we all know those stories of the Cuban families that escape and how they have to start at such like a bottom in order to come back into a spot. But she's like, my parents never quit. Like, I think about every struggle I have, and then I look back and remember what my parents went through, and I know I can't quit because they wouldn't have quit either. And I'm like, oh, another great segment, another great confessional from Dee, another person who I'd say is like my top three are Caleb, Kelly, and Dee heading into this merge of like who I'm just like, they're hitting on all cylinders.
They are.
But this leads to Sifu.
Yes.
Sifu's like, well, everyone thinks I have an idol. So I'm just gonna, so these past few days, I've been grabbing stuff around camp and actually making an idol. But he does the mistake that everyone does when they make a fake idol, and they sort of flaunt it.
Oh yeah, right.
We've seen it in so many other seasons where they make the fake idol, they put it in their pocket, they're holding it around, and they're like, oh yeah, you know, good thing I have this idol. I'll at least survive the next one, you know. If I'm the other people, I'm like, okay, it's not real. We're good. No. We're good, everyone. We can vote him out. But and you can see there's tension between him and Jay Maya. He talks about this like because he's a metal Tai Chi guy, and he talks about like doing like the palms of like you put the palms up against somebody to test like how much they're gonna give, and if they give you a little push, you know the energy to push back. And like it almost feels like he leaves and Jay Maya just goes like, was he just trying to like intimidate me? Into like admitting that I voted for him.
I know.
She ultimately goes into this idea of, she tells the girls like, if we lose, you Julie and Dee, you guys need to go to Sifu and say I was the one that voted him and that we aren't as tight as we are. And then I'm gonna go to Sifu and tell him that I voted for him, and just like really try to get him in a spot where he feels comfortable thinking J Maya's on the bottom.
Yeah, right.
D and Julie hear this and they're like, huh. But if he does have one, we could just vote out J Maya. We're not nearly as close with her as we are with each other. So in their mind, like, this is perfect. D gets to go off scot-free of the Sifu vote, and then we could just vote out J Maya and keep our hands clean. Like, we have the options of either of these people.
Now, what I will say, like, Sifu never seemed like someone that was strategic, like we talked earlier about the heavy metal Tai Chi guy. But I will say he's at least attempting to think about making that fake idol, which was funny because I think Merch or someone in the crowd was like, is that better than that stick? They were talking about the stick because Eliza was there. But it was funny. But yeah, I mean, for me, like, seeing that idol, it didn't look, super bad.
It didn't look bad. My issue is we know what's the all the idols look like now, and the idols look like the little lanyards you can make at a day camp.
Yeah, right.
And not a necklace, not a bracelet. So, like, if you would show me that, I'm like, oh, well, that's obviously not an idol.
Yeah.
Because all the idols now are just these little things of string that with like 3 beads on it.
Yeah.
Here's my idol, Jeff. But I like the effort. Ultimately, like, you can't knock someone for trying to make something.
Exactly.
Whether it works or not, that's up to the other players. So the last segment we have before we go to, or we have 2. First is Bello, where we get this. At first, you think it's going to be this friendship moment between Brando and Drew. And they're bonding over Pokemon.
Oh, yeah. Emily's sitting there rolling her eyes like she just like having to listen to this shit.
Yeah, it's those 3, but like she's just like rolling her eyes like, oh my God. And I rolled my eyes too. I was watching with my sister, who very casual watcher. Watched some seasons back during COVID, but like fell off a little bit. She's a busy girl. So she watched the episode with me, and she actually was like very interested and invested in the episode. So I would say that's a good sign for Survivor, when you can just pull someone who can come in out of nowhere, just ask a few questions, and is fully invested into what's going on.
Oh yeah.
So I like that for the show. But Brando approaches Drew during that, and he's like, look, I would like to work with you. Like, we are similar. And it's about time us nerds do well in Survivor. Nerds don't get to do well in Survivor. And I'm like, well, tell that to David Wright, Cochran, Christian,
Carson,
Aubrey. Like, the list goes on and on. Nerds do well.
Yeah.
The reason why all the nerds can't do well is when you have a third of the cast in the same exact archetype.
Yeah, right.
Then not all of them can do well. And Drew, so he essentially Brando pitches to Drew that I'm willing to vote out an original Bello person come the merge.
Yeah.
Or find a way to work together. And Drew, very shockingly, flat out denies the proposal.
Yeah.
He essentially goes like, nah, I'm good. I don't believe you. This is a bunch of malarkey. And part of me thinks he's doing this because Emily's in the vicinity.
Yeah.
Like, Emily's right there. He knows him and Austin are trying to work very hard to get Emily in with them. And I would suspect if Emily had to choose between Brando or Kendra, I think these people have a better relationship with Kendra than they did with Brando. So by offering, but even suggesting that you would be interested in it could lead Emily to be like, this doesn't add up.
Yeah,
no. I work with stocks. This doesn't add up.
Yeah.
But it was so interesting because, the first rule of Survivor is always like, if someone asks you for an alliance, whether you are telling the truth or not, you say yes. So it's so bizarre seeing it because I'm like, on one hand, I'm like, is he doing this for Emily to show that he's loyal to Emily and Austin and them only? Or is he just like being a little cocky again, like being that cocky nerd?
I think that's what he is. Yeah, I think that's what he is.
Because I think he sees it as like, I don't want to have 6 of another tribe as my allies, when at the time his tribe has a full 6 as well. So I think he's trying to jockey for like, oh, I'll work with you,
Yeah.
but one of your people have to go.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's you, then I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry to tell you that you don't like that I said no, but is what it is. And I
Right.
guess you can sort of be cocky when you have like every single advantage that Survivor's ever made in your pocket.
I know,
Ugh.
dude. That's nuts.
And then our last thing we have is we have a Bruce segment on Lulu where Bruce is not fun drunk Uncle Bruce anymore, and he's starting to get a little controlling dad Bruce again.
Yeah, that
And
could be bad for Bruce.
that could be very bad for Bruce because Couture's like finally he's showing his true colors again. We all know Bruce is a great guy,
Yeah,
but
right.
like in terms of what grates on her and potentially others is he's very bossy.
Right.
And not only is he going to tell you what to do, he's going to tell you how to do it and to do it faster, do it harder. And we leave with Caleb going, I don't care. Bruce can tell me whatever he wants to tell me because if I don't bend, I love this. He was like, if I don't bend a knee, then I'll never be able to get what I want. And when
Yeah.
I eventually want to take Bruce out, by bending the knee now, he won't expect it later.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, great player. Like, again, Caleb just showing why he was cast for the show and
unbelievable
on all cylinders. But this gets us to the immunity challenge. And we've seen this type of challenge before on the couple of the last most recent seasons. It's a 3-level obstacle course. 3 of the people have to go through it, each of them grabbing 3 sets of keys through it. The last person then has to open those bags, find the right key to unleash the sandbags, and then bring all the sandbags over to knock over 3 targets. The winners get a lot of big fish. Second place gets some smaller fish, and third place go to tribal council. And we see Emily sits because she doesn't want to curse her tribe. And Kelly sits begrudgingly because I think Kelly's just a very big competitor. And,
she is. Yep.
And she hates the fact that she has to sit out in anything, which I think like most people should be like that. Because like, I'm out here playing Survivor. I may never get to play Survivor again.
Yeah.
I want to be involved in everything.
Yeah.
Whether I'm good or not. And luckily she's good. But
yeah, I mean, a lot of people like it's bucket list thing. It's fun doing the challenges. But yeah, like someone like Sandra Diaz Twine, dope. I don't want to be in any challenge. I don't have to.
She's like, I'm going to sit out and I'll take that million after.
Yes, exactly.
But we do see going through it, Reba gets a big lead and ultimately gets first.
Mm-hmm.
So worst to first, which proves that Lulu's losing was all Sean's fault. And as soon as Sean's gone, his tribe can win a challenge.
Yeah.
It just makes sense. But unfortunately for Emily, her tribe comes in last. They're going to tribal council. But this episode, it has a journey.
Yes.
So Reba selects Jay Maya from their group, Austin to gain some intel again because they were tribe mates, and Kelly to go with them because I think they were like, the excuse was, oh, well, Kelly looked very upset of having to sit out, so this is like a way to make it up to her is by letting her come on this journey. I think also everyone's just aware that Kelly's a great player, and that's probably someone you want to learn or like gain any type of info that she's willing to give.
Yes.
So we have that. We then go over to the Bello tribe, and we all know it's 2 Bello, 2 Reba fighting for Emily. And Emily is square in the middle, promising both sides her vote. She feels a little bit bad about it, but she's like getting caught in the crosshairs because Emily's very direct. Emily's very honest with what she wants to be doing. And I think that's an expectation she has of the allies she wants to choose in this game. Right. So she had originally is with Drew and Austin, but Brando starts giving some good pitches, and she has a good relationship with Kendra. But the big sticking point is Brando tries to pitch a fake deal to Drew that Emily like sort of overhears.
Yes.
And she doesn't know who to believe of who pitched the deal.
Yeah.
Was it actually Brando? And if that's the case, I can't trust Brando. But part of her believes Drew's making this up, and Drew originally pitched the idea of Brando giving him his shot in the dark in order to keep him and vote out Kendra.
Yes.
And Emily's just, ultimately, we know Emily knows she's the swing. And this is where Drew finally starts feeling like, damn, I might actually be in danger tonight. I thought I had Emily locked in, but she's confronting me, telling me to my face that she doesn't believe me when I'm telling her the truth, that I didn't pitch this deal.
Yeah. Yep. So what do you think about oh crap, what was I gonna say here? Just the whole, like, going back to Drew for a split second. Are you liking him or are you not?
Oh no. I think my bit is no, I hate him and I want him to go. But that's just my bit. I think he is a fun, like, antagonist to follow along. In my perspective, he's an antagonist and he's the bad side of the game, and he's someone who's going to ultimately be taken out some point in early jury, maybe middle of jury. But I think they love him for his confessionals. He's good at, like, articulating his points in a direct way that the audience can understand, despite him being so smart.
And what about Emily? Like you never had a major, even on episode 1, you were pretty much totally down with her.
Yeah, I was down with her on episode 1 because I was like, I thought she was going to be a villain. But then as soon as episode 2 made it clear that no, this is this big redeeming arc of her becoming like this big hero who's just like honest in this game of lying and deception, I'm like, oh, sign me up. I love a good story. I love a good story. And I've been saying this whole time, they said, if I can't win this game, I might as well be first boot. And why would you leave that in there if she doesn't end up winning?
Yeah, she's great.
So it's another bit that I have, but I would love that bit to be right because I think she would be very good at Final Tribal, I would feel. Because like she's not gonna bullshit you.
No, I think
at the end. Like she's gonna be very blunt, tell you to your face like why she did well, why she voted you out. And you're either gonna respect it or you're not.
Yes.
But I'm loving her, and I love that she's in this position where she's not going to go home, because we used to see in these swaps where if you were in the minority or like this type of situation, there was always like discussion of do we just have a ceasefire, do this easy vote, and then we fight again and figure out what's going to happen. And it seems like in this modern version of Survivor, because everyone just knows the show. And everyone is like strategic to a sense, like everyone realizes like, well, no, the optimal move is to bring that person on my side. So I feel like now we're in a point of Survivor where it's like, is it beneficial when swaps are involved to be like that Matt Singh, like be that Malcolm and Denise that like you lose so much of your tribe and then you get split off.
Yeah, and
because you're a minority number, you're deemed a free agent. And then you can come back and the merge together, and now you have all these other connections that you can pull together.
Oh yeah,
like is that the move? Like, do you purposely lose now to try to get yourself in a good position later on?
Yeah, that's a $1 million question, isn't it?
Yeah, but this leads us over to the journey, and they go up, and they have an option of sustenance or strategy. So they can either choose sustenance and they all can get this huge sandwich, which Austin, I think as soon as he heard the word sandwich, didn't hear anything else. And I don't blame him because he came in with like little body fat, a lot of muscle.
Yeah.
That boy is hungry.
Oh, hell yeah.
But the other thing is the amulets that we saw in season 42. And the rules of the amulets are, as long as they're in the game, you all have to be on the same beach in order for them to be powered. If all 3 are in the game, you can pull them together to be an extra vote. If there's only 2 in the game, it becomes a steal vote. If there's 1, it becomes an idol. And it's under the guise of like, this is a tool for you to come together. And Austin goes in confessional. He's like, no, this isn't a gift. This is a curse. This is a bounty.
Yeah.
Like, by having this amulet, we're going to be gunning at each other. And I already have this other stuff. Like, I don't need more. And then I'm also like physical, so I'm already going to be a target. And he's pretty blunt about it on there. He's like, I don't want this because it is going to put a bigger target on me.
Yeah.
I think we should eat the sandwiches because I haven't eaten in 10 days.
Right.
But the girls, Jay Maya is very insistent on doing the amulet.
Mhm.
And Kelly once again finds herself in the middle. She ultimately sides with Jay Maya and picks the sandwiches. And I think for the first time in Survivor that I remember, we have a person in confessional saying, well, I'm going to vote you guys out, not even just because I can get an idol out of it, but because you guys deprived me of eating a sandwich. But I would tell you, just for someone who hasn't played the game,
yes,
in this specific situation of these two specific options,
yes,
I'm with Austin. I pick the sandwich every time, without a doubt.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, for one thing, like we talked earlier, everyone we saw earlier this episode talking about food, they have not been giving them any food, so like you have to get some nourishment and a rebirth of just energy to kind of go on to the next part of the game. So I would take the food.
Yeah. I think the amulet twist, if you're thinking clearly, does not have any incentive for you other than for you to put a bullseye on two other people and hoping you survive of the three. Like that's the only thing, and that's a huge risk.
It is. Big time
whereas
gamble.
you could just eat, get a little food in you, get some of that energy, and that may allow you to think more clearly too.
Yeah,
by having some food in your system. So I was a little surprised that Kelly ultimately picked the amulet over the sandwich. We'll see what happens with that.
Yeah.
But that leads Austin to coming back to camp and realizing he has to tell this lie. Because he was like, I don't know what to tell them with this amulet. So he decides to say, instead of it was being sustenance and strategy, he sort of says, oh, it was either we eat or we do a sweat savvy challenge to gain an advantage, but we fail. It's this big physical thing. I hated the journey, which he did. So it was easy to sell the lie because he's like, I didn't get to eat my sandwich.
Yeah. So I think it's smart to lie in the situation.
Yeah, I think this was a good lie. There's no reason for them to, even if they don't believe you, it doesn't truly matter because you're against them anyway at the moment.
Yes.
But he shows the truth to Drew. Drew understands it immediately, and they go, should we show Emily? And that's where Drew's like, Emily's on the fence right now. Like, she has confronted me. She thinks that I'm lying about this pitch Brando did. I am not lying.
Yeah.
So Austin does ultimately decide to show Emily this advantage.
Yes.
But that's where we leave into tribal, and both sides fully believe they have Emily, and Emily's just like, I'm really hoping this decision that I make, it's going to hurt someone, and I'm going to break somebody's trust here when all four people trust me.
Yeah, right.
So we get into tribal. It's very clear again. It's like Brando and Drew are going back and forth with each other. Based off exit press, which is the gift of seeing this or recording this after the fact.
Yeah.
Brando was blindsided by the vote last night. Like, he believed he did enough work these last few days where they would have chosen to vote out Kendra over him. So I think ultimately Drew and Emily worked together to decide it would be Kendra staying because they probably have a better connection. Emily probably sees a better path with Kendra than with Brando in terms of just like how the pieces on the board make sense if you go into a potential merge, which we're going into during the merge next week. Yes. But again, during this tribal, Drew is very blunt about being against Bello, being against Brando, and it's sort of fun seeing nerds fight.
It is because it's shocking because you're like, wow, I can't believe like Drew's not into this. It seems like it'd be like his dream come
like
true.
You would
to be
think
in the
they would
Nerd
just
Alliance.
buy in.
Yeah,
but
so
instead,
I like the fact that it's not though. It's
and I liked it because you do have Jeff doing his Jeff stuff, but it almost like to go into a high school phrase since we're talking about nerds today. It felt like debate class. It felt like these two guys counterpointing each other of like why the other person's wrong. But ultimately, we go to the vote. And as some people may have forgotten, Austin's idol, the idols that were all part of the Beware Advantage, you could either play it immediately and just use it, or you could lose your vote and allow it to be good until everyone's on one beach.
Right.
So he decides to do that. He decides to not use his idol. He's going to bank it so that he can at least get it to when everyone's on one beach.
Yep.
But this comes into play Caleb's gift that he gave Drew of the Goodwill Advantage, which now we know is just any type of event where you would lose your vote. This advantage allows you to regain it, and that's ultimately what gets them to win the day, because without Austin's vote, it's a locked vote. And does Emily just flip on the revote because Austin has no vote? Is she really going to die on that hill? Maybe not.
Yeah.
So Brando ultimately goes. It makes sense based off the edit, but I think they did a good job of making you think there was at least a chance that Drew could be going before the earned emerge. And then you're like, huh, but he had such a big edit. But like, we've had other people with big edits that go out before emerge happens.
Oh yeah, totally. So I honestly like I'm cool with Brando going.
Seemed like a good kid.
Yeah, seems like a good kid. He's not quitting the game, you know. He's getting voted out proper. And Emily, I'm loving. Overall, last night it was, like I said, so fun watching Survivor. Excuse me, with other survivors. But like I said, sometimes it's like if there's not great audio, or there are just times where you know, I was meeting fans that came from Detroit, Michigan, dude. Like,
oh man,
all on a freaking weeknight, and so it was so cool and beautiful, and we all. It's so cool to be a part of this Survivor community with the fans and the players and just reality TV in general. I mean, it's been so exciting, Alex, watching Jonny Fairplay on House of Villains, which
amazing.
Will be, you know, this weekend we record like it's been, I think, Dan and I and Fairplay and Wayne, and sometimes Alex might jump on, where we do like a roundtable kind of discussion on House of Villains episode and get some of the behind the scenes of Jonny. And then Jonny will do his Talk Villain to Me podcast, where he has someone from House of Villains. Last week he did the Jax interview, which is really cool.
Definitely listen to it.
Yeah. So if you want to give a rundown of all the other podcasts on the network, if someone's listening right now and want to hear other stuff that you got going on, what we got?
Sure. For sure. Yeah. So as always on our weekly basis, besides a week like this, which is a little more abnormal, typically we'll have Survivor recaps immediately after the episode finishes airing on Wednesdays. On Fridays, but Saturday this week, Dan Monchel and I will be covering the new season of MTV's The Challenge, A Battle of New Champion. Those will typically be Friday afternoons. And then, as Matt said, we'll also be doing Johnny's Talk Villain to Me, recapping the most recent episode of House of Villains with people from his season, from the show. And then we'll also have our roundtable. But also become a patron at realitypatron.com, where Matt and Jonny have our weekly Q&A, which is the best podcast of the week, as well as Australian Survivor coverage, as Matt does a watch back of past seasons that he had never watched before. They're currently in the middle of Brains versus Brawn, which is an amazing season.
This is so good, man.
Become a patron. Try it for a month. If you don't like it, Jonny will give your money back. We do not hold any hostages here. But that's the best way to support us. But if you're listening now, or wherever you are listening, please give us a 5-star review. If you're watching the video, give us that like and subscribe and hit that bell for all notifications. That helps the algorithms push our content out further to more people who love the shows that we love to cover.
And I tell you what, I got a compliment last night because they were like, I love your just uncensored, tell it like it is. Like, I have no one to please. Like, I have there's no advertiser that's saying you can't, you know, do this or that. This is like the real deal. And I always also say this when we are talking about a cast member, Alex, on a TV show. Like if I say Sean sucks or that girl Hannah, whatever, that quits, terrible, or Brandon can't even climb a ladder. It's in the concept of a player playing a game on a TV show.
Yeah.
I'm sure these people are so awesome in real life because it's Survivor's one big family. And no matter what, if you get through the casting process on Survivor, every one of us has some it quality that resonates, and you can tell when you meet other survivors. I can be like, oh, I know why they put them on.
Absolutely.
So props to anyone who gets on this show, House of Villains, Big Brother, any of that stuff. So yeah, we love doing these. And if you want to experience a watch party with Jonny Fairplay, go to Survivor Tix at survivortix.com. It'll list all the cities Jonny is coming to. And yeah, make sure you check it out. And Alex, thank you very much for doing this. Like I said, we recorded this the night after based off of, certain circumstances with the watch parties. But we will be back next week on another exciting episode of Survivor Season 45. Cheers, everybody. And good night, everyone.